Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookercast, the podcast where books come to life.
And I'm so excited to dive into another amazing story with all of you.
Whether you're a bookworm or just love a good story, this is the place for you.
Every episode, we explore incredible books, talk about their stories and characters, and share insights that'll make you fall in love with reading all over again.
All right, let's not keep you waiting any longer. Get comfortable, and let's jump right into it.
Sounds good.
All right, settle in, because today we're taking a deep dive into A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. It's a captivating blend of historical fiction and character study.
You know, it's really more than just a history lesson, though.
Oh, absolutely. That's what drew me to it.
Yeah.
Towles just has this way of bringing the past to life in such a vivid and relatable way.
He really does. It's quite impressive.
So picture this. It's 1922. Russia's in the throes of the post-revolution era.
Right.
And our protagonist, Count Alexander Rostov, a man of, well, former privilege, ends up sentenced to house arrest.
Quite a change of scenery.
But not just any house arrest. He's confined to the luxurious Metropole Hotel.
The Metropole, yeah. Talk about a gilded cage.
It's quite the contrast, isn't it? Going from sprawling estates to this, well, grand but confined space.
It is, and that's actually where the genius of Towles' storytelling comes in.
How so?
He uses this confinement, this restriction of freedom, as a way to explore how we adapt as humans.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
How we find purpose and meaning when our world suddenly shrinks.
Now, the Count isn't the kind to just wallow in self-pity, is he?
Not at all. He's surprisingly resourceful.
I mean, he's an aristocrat facing this dramatic shift in his life. You'd expect some, I don't know, despair.
You might think so, but no, he takes a very different approach.
Okay, tell me more.
He finds inspiration from, of all things, Robinson Crusoe.
Really? Robinson Crusoe?
Yep, the classic tale of survival.
So he's looking to that for guidance.
You could say that he decides to treat the hotel as his island.
His own little kingdom to master. I like it.
Exactly, and we see him downsizing his life, quite literally.
Like, he actually turns his hotel suite into a castaway situation.
Well, not with coconuts and makeshift grafts, but you get the idea.
So it's symbolic then.
Absolutely. He's meticulously arranging his belongings, keeping only what's essential.
Like he's letting go of the past, both physically and mentally.
Exactly. He's shedding the trappings of his old life and embracing this new reality.
But he can't possibly be completely alone in this grand hotel, right?
Oh, the Metropole is far from deserted. It's bustling with life.
So who are the people that populate his world?
Well, first, there's the hotel staff.
Okay.
Initially, they're wary of him, this aristocrat suddenly living among them.
Makes sense.
But they become his lifeline, his connection to normalcy.
I can imagine that, in a way, they're all in this together.
Exactly. And there's this really heartwarming scene where they all toast to the Metropole.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's like they're finding solace in their shared fate, creating a new kind of family.
It's amazing how such unexpected circumstances can forge these bonds.
It really is. And that's one of the beautiful things Towles captures in this novel.
Okay, I'm picturing the setting, I'm getting a feel for the atmosphere, but who are some of the other key players?
Well, there's Nina, a young girl full of curiosity.
A young girl.
She's bright, inquisitive, and she becomes the Count's guide to the hotel's hidden corners.
Oh, I like that.
It's almost like she's his personal Alice in Wonderland, leading him down the rabbit hole.
I love that analogy. It's like she's reawakening his sense of wonder.
Exactly. Just when he's at risk of becoming too set in his ways, she brings this fresh perspective.
That's fantastic.
Then there's Mishka, the Count's intellectual sparring partner.
Oh, so someone who challenges him mentally.
Definitely. Their conversations are these fascinating glimpses into the world outside.
That's important, especially given his confinement.
Absolutely. Mishka keeps him connected to the bigger picture, the political and philosophical currents of the time.
So he's not completely isolated from what's happening in Russia.
Not at all. And then, of course, we have Anna Urbanova.
And who is she?
She's a glamorous actress, a symbol of the Count's lost world of elegance and freedom.
Ooh, this sounds intriguing.
Their relationship is, well, complicated.
Complicated, you say?
Oh, very much so, but I don't want to spoil too much.
No spoilers, I get it.
Yeah.
But you've definitely piqued my interest.
Let's just say their paths intertwine in unexpected ways, and their connection stirs up certain longings in the Count.
Okay, you've hooked me on these characters.
Good, because they're truly the heart of this story.
But with all this focus on the characters, does Towles manage to capture the essence of the time period as well?
He does it masterfully. His writing is so evocative, so rich in detail.
Give me an example, something that really stuck with you.
There's this scene where the Count's tending to beehives on the hotel rooftop.
Beehives on the roof.
It's a surprising detail, but it works.
Okay.
He describes how the taste of the honey changes with the seasons, depending on the flowers in bloom.
That's beautiful imagery.
It's subtle, but it speaks volumes about the passage of time.
It's like even within this unchanging environment, life is still cyclical, still evolving.
Exactly. Those little details elevate the story beyond just a historical setting.
They ground you in the moment, make you feel the weight of history.
Precisely, and that's one of the things I admire most about Towles' writing.
Okay, you've sold me on the setting, the characters, the atmosphere. But what about the deeper themes? This can't just be a fluffy story about a count in a fancy hotel, right?
You're absolutely right. It goes much deeper than that.
So what are some of the bigger ideas at play here?
Well, the novel really delves into questions of identity and purpose.
Especially relevant for the count, given his circumstances.
Exactly. His entire life has been uprooted, his identity stripped away.
So how does he grapple with that?
That's the core of his journey. How does he rebuild? How does he find meaning when everything he knew is gone?
It's a question we could all relate to on some level, right? Even if we haven't faced anything as drastic as house arrest.
Absolutely. We all experience change and loss in our lives, and the Count's journey offers insights into how to navigate those challenges.
And what's fascinating is that he doesn't find solace in bitterness or despair.
You're right. He finds it in the simplest things.
Yeah.
Books, conversations, the rituals of daily life.
So it's about finding freedom within limitations.
Exactly. And it raises a fundamental question. What truly defines us? Is it our circumstances or how we choose to respond to them?
That's something I'm going to be pondering as we continue this deep dive. But before we move on, you mentioned some pivotal moments earlier. Can you give me a taste of what those are?
Well, there's the scene where the Count encounters a young girl in the hotel lobby and this chance meeting.
Hold on. You're about to reveal a major spoiler.
You're right. My apologies.
Let's save that for part 2, shall we?
Of course, we don't want to ruin the suspense.
Listeners, if you want to find out who this mysterious girl is and why her arrival is so significant, you'll have to join us for the next part of our deep dive.
It'll be worth the wait, I assure you.
We'll be back in a flash, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. I hope you've had a moment to ponder what you would find essential if you were in the Count's position.
Oh, definitely. Really get you thinking about what truly matters.
You know, one of the things that struck me was how Towles uses food and dining almost symbolically.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Well, remember those descriptions of the meals in the Boyarsky dining room?
Oh, yes. They were so vivid, almost mouth-watering.
It's not just about delicious food, though. It's about ritual and community.
Ah, I see. Maintaining a sense of normalcy in a world that's been turned upside down.
Exactly. Those meals represent a little pocket of civilization.
A way for the Count to hold on to his dignity and connection to his past.
Precisely. And there's this one scene that really highlights this.
Which one?
When the bishop decrees that the Boyarsky can only serve red or white wine, all at the same price.
That seems like a rather minor detail.
It is, but it speaks volumes about the changing times.
You're right. It's about the loss of choice, the imposition of uniformity.
It mirrors what's happening in Russian society as a whole.
It's like that small rule change reflects a much larger shift in power and control.
Exactly, and the way the Count reacts, you can sense his understanding of what's being lost.
It's a threat to individuality, to the very things that make life worth living.
And speaking of things that make life worth living, wasn't there a moment where the Count reflects on time itself?
Oh, yes, in the wine cellar, right?
Yes. He has this realization that time can be both a steady flow and a sudden rupture.
Traditions vanishing overnight, entire ways of life disappearing in an instant.
It's a chilling realization, especially for someone like the Count who's so rooted in tradition.
It makes you question the very foundations of your existence.
And it actually leads him to a rather dark decision.
Oh, what's that?
To plan his own death.
Whoa, that took a dark turn.
It does, but it makes sense in the context of his despair.
He wants to end his life on his own terms before time robs him of everything.
But of course, things don't go exactly as planned.
I'm guessing someone steps in to change his course.
You guessed it, enter Sophia.
The young girl from the lobby.
The one and only. She bursts into his life like a whirlwind.
Bringing with her the energy and hope of youth.
Exactly. She challenges his assumptions, pushes him out of his comfort zone.
It's like she represents the future, colliding with his carefully constructed present.
And in doing so, she shows him that there's still so much to live for.
Their relationship must be something special.
It's the heart of the novel, this beautiful, unconventional father-daughter bond.
And Sophia sounds like quite the character.
She's a force of nature.
Remember when she cuts her hair short and escapes to Paris?
Oh, that scene was incredible.
A powerful act of rebellion, yearning for freedom.
It mirrors the spirit of the times.
And it creates such suspense. You're on the edge of your seat wondering what will happen.
It's a masterfully crafted moment.
Speaking of endings, how does Towles wrap up this incredible story?
In a way that's both satisfying and thought-provoking.
Without giving too much away, of course.
Of course, but it reinforces the idea that life is a precious gift.
Even in the face of loss and uncertainty.
There's always the possibility of renewal, of new beginnings.
It's not a saccharine, happy ending, but it leaves you with a sense of hope.
Exactly, and throughout our conversation, we've touched upon the historical context.
Yes, the Russian Revolution looms large over the entire story.
It's the earthquake that sets everything in motion.
But Towles doesn't just use it as a backdrop. He weaves it into the Count's personal story.
Remember the scene where the Count sees the Bolsheviks removing the bells from the monastery?
Oh, yes, it's such a striking image.
It's not just vandalism. It's symbolic of the dismantling of tradition.
The silencing of the old voices of power.
The Count, confined to the metropole, becomes a witness to history in action.
He's got a front row seat to this pivotal moment in time.
But he's not just a passive observer. These events directly impact his life.
For example?
Well, Towles mentions the new economic policy, a period of limited economic liberalization.
Ah, I see. So even within his confinement, he's still subject to the forces of history.
Exactly. And then there's the growing threat of Stalin's rise to power.
It creates a sense of paranoia and fear even within the hotel.
The walls are closing in, even though he's already imprisoned.
Does the Count ever directly confront the political realities of the time?
There's a chilling scene where he encounters the bishop, a figure who represents the regime.
It's a reminder that no one is truly safe in this new world order.
But amidst all this darkness, Towles also highlights moments of beauty and humanity.
The resilience of the human spirit.
Exactly. People finding ways to connect and find joy, even in the face of hardship.
That's what makes A Gentleman in Moscow so powerful. It's not just a history lesson.
It's a story about the triumph of the human spirit.
There's a line from the novel that really stuck with me.
Which one?
The Count says, "If a man does not master his circumstances, then he is bound to be mastered by them."
That's a powerful quote. It speaks to the importance of agency.
Even when our choices seem limited, we can still choose how we respond.
And let's not forget the humor that Towles sprinkles throughout the novel.
You're right, it keeps the story from feeling too heavy.
It's a story that's both profound and entertaining.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground in part 2.
We've explored the Count's transformation, the emotional core of the story.
But we haven't finished unpacking the historical backdrop.
There's more to delve into there.
So for those of you who want to explore the Russian Revolution further,
And how it shapes the Count's world.
be sure to join us for the final part of our deep dive.
We'll be back in a jiffy.
And we're back for the final leg of our Gentleman in Moscow journey.
Ready to uncover more about the historical backdrop.
Oh, absolutely. I'm fascinated by how Towles brings that era to life.
It's essential to understanding the Count's story, wouldn't you say?
Completely. So let's dive in, shall we?
Like,
For those of us who might need a little refresher, can you give us a quick rundown of what led to the Russian Revolution?
think of it as a boiling point. Years of simmering tensions finally erupting.
Okay, paint the picture for me.
You have widespread poverty, inequality, a ruling class detached from the struggles of everyday people.
A recipe for unrest, for sure.
And then you throw World War I into the mix.
Adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah, exactly. It all culminated in this massive upheaval, sweeping away the old order.
So how does Towles weave this historical drama into the Count's personal narrative?
He does it through these brilliant symbolic moments. Remember the scene with the monastery bells?
Oh yes, when the Bolsheviks removed them.
It's not just an act of destruction, it's a powerful symbol.
Of what?
The dismantling of tradition, the silencing of the old voices of power.
Wow, I never quite saw it that way, but it makes perfect sense.
It encapsulates the entire upheaval, the old ways being swept aside.
And something new, something uncertain taking their place.
Exactly. And the Count, from his vantage point in the metropole,
Becomes this observer of history unfolding.
he's witnessing the birth pangs of a new Russia.
From a uniquely intimate perspective.
But he's not just a passive bystander. These events have a direct impact on his life.
Could you give me an example?
Well, there's the introduction of the new economic policy.
Okay, remind me what that was again.
It was a period of limited economic liberalization in the early 1920s.
So even within his confinement, he's still subject to the policies of the new regime,
Exactly. And this policy actually allows him to sell some of his hidden treasures.
allowing him to survive financially.
And then, of course, there's the looming shadow of Stalin.
Ah, yes, the rise of a dictator.
It creates this growing sense of fear and paranoia, even within the Metropole.
The walls are closing in, even though he's technically already imprisoned.
It's a palpable tension that Towles masterfully builds throughout the story.
Does the Count ever directly confront the political realities of the time?
There's a particularly chilling scene where he encounters the bishop,
The bishop.
a figure who embodies the ever-present threat of the regime.
It's a stark reminder that no one is immune to the dangers of this new world order.
But amidst all this darkness, Towles also highlights moments of beauty and humanity.
The resilience of the human spirit, finding joy even in the most difficult circumstances.
Exactly. He shows us how people find ways to connect and create, even under the weight of oppression.
That's what makes A Gentleman in Moscow such a powerful and enduring story.
It transcends its historical setting and speaks to universal human experiences.
It's a reminder that hope and connection can exist even in the darkest of times,
It's a story about finding meaning and purpose in unexpected places.
and embracing the simple joys of life, no matter the circumstances.
So, dear listeners, as we conclude our deep dive, we encourage you to reflect on the Count's journey.
The lessons he learned, the connections he forged,
Perhaps it will inspire you to appreciate the simple beauties in your own life.
the power of human connection, the resilience of the human spirit.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll be inspired to pick up a copy of A Gentleman in Moscow yourself.
To embark on your own exploration of this captivating world.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
And remember, even within the confines of our own lives, there's always something new to discover.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Bookercast. We hope you enjoyed diving into it as much as we did. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this episode with your fellow book lovers. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. See you in the next deep dive. Bye for now, and happy reading.